Between June 27th and July 5th, France has faced 8 days of massive riots. It's not the first time it has happened, but the level of destruction and violence was unprecedented. I've just spent the last 3 weeks in France. I've talked to a lot of people and read a lot, so I want to go back to what happened and revisit my latest assessment in political and financial terms. My name is Joran from Economia. Welcome back to the channel and let's talk about France. On June 27th, a 17-year-old called Naël Merzoug was stopped while driving a sports car. For reasons still to be determined, he refused to listen to the police order, situation escalated, and he got shot and died. This was a trigger for 8 days of massive riots all across France that cost north of 615 million euros, resulted in 3,600 arrests, more than 700 police force wounded, and it took 45,000 police personnel to quell the violence. The amount of destruction is just shocking, as you can see on the list. Nothing was spared, especially as the perpetrators destroyed their own neighborhoods. What are the reasons for this explosion of violence besides the death of this 17-year-old? France is well known for having difficulties in integrating second and third generation migrants from Middle East or African descent, while European and Asian descent migrants have relatively easier time integrated in French society. There are many reasons that are talked about, like cultural background, mastery of the language, family structure, as well as economical and political situation in the country. And many of you might know it's never easy to integrate in a country like I'm doing now in Japan, but also the fact is that I'm only the second generation in my family being born in France. It wasn't easy for the first one who came, and it's certainly not easy today. For the past few years, there have been many arguments thrown around of why migrants cannot be integrated in French society so easily. Many people are thinking and talking about the background of the migrants. If the society they're coming from is quite close to the French society or Western Europe, it's easier to assimilate because they know the code of conduct and the social codes. If they are coming from a very different society, it becomes more difficult to integrate, to master the language, and to basically enjoy all the opportunities and climb the social ladder. It's very possible, but there are exceptions. If we look at migrants from Asia, Southeast Asia or South Asia, they are doing relatively well compared to others in France. So this might be true, but not for everyone. When France was very rich and going forward very fast before the mid-1970s and the petrol shock, the oil shock, it was easier to integrate. Since then, the economy has not been growing so fast, so it might have been more difficult to integrate in the society and climb the social ladder. So that could be another possibility. Another one that we have to talk about, and that's, to be very honest, is racism. If you look a bit different, maybe the way you're talking, the gods you are believing in, maybe your name, maybe the color of your skin, a lot of people will push you back and you'll have to work twice as hard, 3 times, 10 times as hard to be accepted and climb the social ladder. And not everybody is willing to doing that, and that might be causing friction. And the fact also that most of the migrants since the 1970s have been parked in very large projects on the suburbs of very large cities has been limiting the opportunities, has been concentrating resentment, and we can see it exploding, like in the latest riots, like in the riots in 2005 or 2003 or before that. So those could be a lot of the reasons and the arguments that people are throwing around for the reason why this is being happening. Additionally, all the symbols of the French Republic, all the symbol of the French authority has been attacked and systematically attacked by a tiny minority. And the first one who have been suffering are firefighters and police force. There have been an increasing number of police force being attacked, wounded, and unfortunately dying in the line of duty. This has been especially happening during traffic stops, and the number of people who have refused traffic stops and run over police, wounded police or killed police has increased as well. And in return, the use of gun, of shooting at perpetrators has increased, the incidence has increased, especially since 2017, as the laws and the rules of engagement have changed The proportion of number of people being shot for not respecting is not increasing itself, but the absolute number has increased because the number of people not respecting the traffic stopped has increased as well. So it's a very, very explosive situation. Police is feeling unsupported by the government, unsupported by justice, whereas they are very much supported by the French population. Additionally, rumors has it that part of the riot was terminated because drug dealers wanted a peaceful environment to continue trafficking drugs in those suburbs. You can imagine how all those arguments and all those rumors put together make for a very, very explosive and very negative environment. Now that we are almost a month after the end of the riots, the dust is settling in, but the fallout are far from being finished, and they are actually twofold: economical and political. Let's start with politics. First, the government was seen as being late and unprepared. The police force came and 45,000 of them eventually were called, but this took so much time and the riots went on for 8 days. A lot of people thought and wonder why the response was not fastest and strongest earlier on. Of course, the opposition parties had a field day, whether they were on the left or the right. The left came after the police for police brutality, as well as after the government for lacking a number of social programs to help integration, to help all those suburbs that are lacking a lot of support, and to offer more opportunities to those young people. On the right side, you would have the same attack on the government, but for not being strong enough, for not questioning and crashing down these riots stronger, faster, for not supporting the police, for not supporting the police force. Very opposite side and very opposite approach, as you can imagine. And actually 66% of the general public condemned the riots and the destruction of property, but at the same time 77% of them supported the security forces. Although President Macron went on TV on July 24th praising the government and praising the police force for quelling those riots faster than it was done in 2005, it lacked a bit of substance and people were not completely convinced. So in my last video, I mentioned weak political leadership as one of the negative points holding France back. I didn't know I would be so right, and the French public agrees. In a recent opinion poll, President Macron's approval ratings were only 24%, and the Prime Minister's was only 21%. This is quite low and not exactly a vote of confidence. We'll see what happens the next cycle of election, but we can think that the electorate might shift to the right to see a tougher stance on crime and security. At least that's what journalists are saying. The government has mentioned an upcoming law on immigration to try to reduce the number of migrants and increase, from what they say, the quality of migrants. This is going towards the right side of the electorate that's really focusing on immigration, and this has been going on since the past election and for many years, where people think that immigration is one of the most pressing issues, and it's not only a French issue, obviously. People are thinking about quotas or point system to allow immigrants in, but this is a very taboo subject. I'm not holding my breath too much. The second part of the fallout is the economical side. As I mentioned, we are facing 650 million euros of damages, according to the insurance company. This is a lot. We don't know where the money is coming from, and it's mainly local. Whole neighborhood have been destroyed, a lot of the infrastructure is gone. This is going to be taking time to rebuild. This is going to be taking time to have everybody the confidence to come back. So it's still tough to see and diagnose the economic impact, but there's certainly going to be some economic impact. A lot of jobs are going to leave those suburbs, and it's going to be more difficult to find jobs. So we are in a very negative circle on economical points. On the macro level, inflation is still very high, and I was really surprised by how much prices have gone up. I've seen the numbers in the newspaper, but seeing them in reality was quite shocking and impressive. There's still a lot of unemployment, as I just mentioned, and there's been talk of tax breaks for the middle class, but they haven't materialized. They should come at the end of the year, so the impact is going to be obviously delayed by a couple of months. So for the time being, not much can be expected for the economy at this point, except the newly voted defense budget. Since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, all of Western Europe, and especially France, which is a major military power, realized that they didn't have what it takes to sustain a high-intensity conflict in terms of ammunition, material, or people. Even the famous FAMAS assault rifle got shelved, and a German-built HK416 got adopted for the whole military. On the side note, I saw some of the French military patrolling in Paris 2 weeks ago with this new piece of kit. It's quite impressive, but it's a piece of history that's being shelved. In response, France decided to increase very much its military budget. And this military budget is called Loi de Programmation Militaire, or Military Program Law. And this year, it's 40% increase compared to the previous law. Those laws are 5 to 7 years long. And this is the highest increase for the past 50 years. We are talking over 400 billion euros, 450 billion dollars. This is going to be concentrating on ammunitions, drone, cyber warfare, as well as recruitment of personnel, including reserve. This is a major push for the economy because most of the companies that are going to be benefiting this are French companies or European companies, but mainly the production is going to be done in France. If we look at the list of the major French defense companies, here you have a list of the top 5. Those are all in the stock market. Those are major companies, and they're going to be benefiting massively from this increase. Where is the money going to come from? We don't know, because if you remember the previous video, there's already a very large budget deficit, but this has been announced and this is going to happen, and this is going to please the electorate, whether they're on the left or on the right. And I think the government had been prepared for that for a long time, and it comes just at the right time, just after the riots. All of those companies are listed on the French stock market. They're all part of the CAC 40, which is the index for France. So if you were looking at diversifying your portfolio, if you are outside of Europe, outside of France, this could be a good opportunity, but it's very local. So I was mentioning last time, it's better to look at the European index, and they would be part of this index. And I'm putting on screen the index I talked about last time, but actually very recently, a new defense-focused ETF has been launched, and you see it on screen. And this index could be the one you may want to consider, and I may want to consider, to benefit from this massive spending in defense in France. And why this ETF? This ETF is not only on Europe, it also has more than half dedicated to the US, but 20% of the portfolio goes toward France. And I looked into it, those companies would be part of this ETF, are part of this ETF. So it could be a very good option if you wanted to play for the next 7 years and into the future. And of course, the 2024 Paris Olympic Game budget is still there. We are just 1 year away from the Olympic Games, and the budget is 8 billion euros, $8.2 billion. And this is still pumping in the economy, mainly in Paris and around Paris. But this should hopefully help the economy go forward despite the inflation, despite all what we've been talking about and those riots. So if we look at the society, and if we look at politics, the future looks quite bleak for France. All those issues are there, they are not taken care of, and they are only gradually getting worse. So I hope the government, the politics, get their act together and try to rebuild French society and give it an overall direction so things get better. One positive point is what I just talked about, the economy, the massive defense budget, and the Olympics should pump a bit of money, and hopefully if the Olympics go well, this should lift the mood and we should see a bit of positive news coming out of France. If you're interested to dig deeper into France, I made this video that I reference a lot so you can see all the details. And also on a completely different subject, I just bought a house in Tokyo, so you can check that. If you like this video or learned something, please give it a like. Do not hesitate to subscribe for more videos like that. Leave a comment down below and thank you again for watching. Until next time, goodbye.